Hello everybody, it's Stephen here for the Idiot Quilter, and this is just a quick video to talk about a little experiment I did with creating appliques using electronic cutting machines. Now I have several electronic cutting machines. I have a Brothers Scan and Cut, I have a Cricut Explorer, and I have a Cricut Maker. I also use some steel rule dies in my die cutting machine, and the one that I was using was the Vagabond by Tim Holtz. So I just wanted to show you and share with you my findings on this. Now this is strictly my opinion and the way I was using things, and maybe in some cases I wasn't ideally set up, I'm not sure, but here's my conclusion. First of all, I had read that you can use your steel rule dies with your standard cutting machine like a Vagabond or a Big Shot, that kind of thing, to cut out appliques. They have to be steel rule dies though. Your little fancy dies that you'd use for card making or scrapbooking are not going to work. So I tried that out, and I'm doing butterflies here just because I like butterflies. So here's what happened with my Vagabond and a steel rule die. And it cut very well. Now the first time that I put it through, it didn't cut all the way through the fabric. It left a few parts still attached. But I solved that problem by just taking a piece of cardstock, putting it on top of the whole sandwich that goes through the machine. That gave it just a little bit more pressure, and no problem, it went through. I actually went forward and I went backwards, so I went twice over it and it came right out, no problem whatsoever. So if you have one of those type of machines and you have some steel rule dies, then it should work for you, no problem. Now Sizzix does make a machine, I forget what it's called, but or it's by AccuCut. AccuCut, I think, is the either one of the subsidiaries of Sizzix or is the mothership of Sizzix that make die cutting machines. They have a machine that is made for quilters to cut out pieces. They have steel rule dies that'll do your squares, like half square triangles and things like that. I'm not sure how much that machine costs. I think it's fairly pricey. I would say it's probably a couple of $100 just based on my knowledge of how much my Vagabond cost. And steel rule dies are not cheap. They're going to run you probably anywhere from $20 up, depending on how elaborate they are. So it's a big investment. But if you already have a machine, like a Sizzix machine of some sort that works with steel rule dies, then maybe, you know, buying a couple of more steel rule dies to fill out your set with it might be worth the investment. Okay, that's the Sizzix. Now let's move to electronic cutting machines. So I tried with my Brothers Scan and Cut. Now with the Brothers Scan and Cut, you have to bond the material. You just can't put your fabric down on the mat and cut it. It won't do that. So you need to make it a little thicker, so you put an interfacing. I used a fusible interfacing on this. Put it in the machine. I had to fool around with the adjustments, the pressure, and that, and I still did not get it quite right. Now, there is a possibility. I've had that machine for quite a while. I haven't used it in quite a while, but the blade could be a little bit dull with it, so that may have been one of the problems with it, but I just wasn't really that impressed. I had to go around with a pair of scissors and cut out little pieces that hadn't cut all the way through. It was a pain in the butt, quite frankly, and I've never had any luck, really. The few times that I have tried to cut fabric with the Brothers Scan and Cut, I know there are videos out there where people just zippity-doo-dah right through, no problem. So it's probably more me than it is the machine. But my feelings is, if you got to fool around with the machine umpteen times until you get a perfect cut, then is it really worth it? Okay, I say no. The Brothers Scan and Cut machine is great for paper. It's got a scanner in it, all that kind of stuff. But as a machine, which they originally toted it as, is a quilter's machine. It even has all kinds of quilting patterns built into it that you can cut out. I just don't have the patience to fool around with it. So then I tried my Explorer Air. Now, the Explorer Air does say too that you have to bond the material. I'm just trying to find my example here. Yeah, here it is. You have to bond the material the same as you do with the Brothers Scan and Cut, and I did that. Same fusible bonding material, or interfacing, not bonding, interface, that's it. Same stuff as I used in the Brothers Scan and Cut. I put it through. I had to play with the adjustments. They didn't really have a cotton fabric, bonded cotton fabric one setting for it in the Cricut design space. So I played around with a couple of settings and it did cut eventually. But again, I had to play around with the settings. Now, maybe once I got the settings, it would be fine. You could, put it into the machine, you know what you're doing. But again, who's got the time for that? I want to cut and go, okay? So that brings me to the Cricut Maker. Now, I love this machine. I absolutely love this machine. And what this machine has is a rotary cutter blade for it. That makes it superior to any of the other machines that I've just mentioned, because none of them have a rotary blade, okay? The other thing is you do not have to bond your material. So this is what I cut out. It's not bonded. There's no interfacing on it whatsoever. It was just light cotton material. There's a setting for cotton material, bonded or unbonded, and a whole bunch of others for the Cricut Maker as well. That goes along with the rotary blade. So that's nice. So I put it on. No problem. First time, cut perfectly. I didn't have to do it. It took me seconds, basically, to set it up to do that. Once I found my graphic that I wanted to use, bang, I told it I was using what material I was using, put it in, away it went. Perfect cut. No problem. So, as far as I'm concerned with my little experiment with my machines, and given that, okay, yes, maybe I need to fool around with some of the other machines a little bit more, I would say if you're looking for, you do a lot of applique and you want an electronic cutting machine to cut them out, I would invest in the Cricut Maker. Yes, it's a pricey machine. In Canadian money, I think it might run, I think it's come down. I think I paid close to $500 for it when I first got it a year and a half ago. I think it's come down. I think it might be hovering around the $400 Canadian mark rate now. But it is worth it. And it comes with the rotary blade as well. You do need to use a fabric cutting mat, which I'm not sure. I think it comes in the box. I think you get a fabric cutting mat as well. The mats aren't that expensive, though. I've got quite a few of them. And you do have to have that because it's got a special glue on it for holding material. But you don't have to bond your material, which is nice. My second choice would be just to use steel rule dies. But if you don't have an electronic cutting machine, and if you do not have a lot of steel rule dies or a machine that can handle steel rule dies, I think I'd invest in the Cricut Maker because you're going to get more bang for your buck, in my opinion. Because this is not just going to cut material. It'll cut all kinds of things as well, and other materials. It'll even cut, with the new knife blade, you can cut, chipboard and that kind of stuff. So, from a quilter's point of view, the idiot that I am, I say the Cricut Maker is the best machine right now on the market, in my experience, for cutting appliques or cutting fabric in general. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more tips and tricks from the Idiot Quilter. Bye-bye.